Hello everybody and welcome to a new video. Today we're talking about a new book review. Wet Belly by Dr. William Davis is the book this time. The latest book that I just read. I've actually read this before once, but it was a long time ago and I didn't make a video on the channel. So I'll make a video now because I read it a second time. So it's a pretty interesting book. I have some points here, some ideas I got from this book, and some minor small criticisms. I mean, what do I know? I'm not a doctor, so who am I to criticize a doctor? But just a few thoughts in the end on like the idea of the book. But yeah, he talks about in this book, of course, about wet and all the bad things that wet does to us, and one of them is the obvious one, the wet belly. Now, obviously, eventually everything comes down to calories. In the end, there's many factors that impact the calorie equation or calorie balance. But in the end of the day, why people who eat wet, one of the big reasons is that they eat more calories. And he says in this book that people who eat wet eat about 300 to 400 or so. I think it's exactly something like 350, 400 calories on average more than people who don't eat at all any wet. People who don't eat wet. So that explains already the gain about the pound or about half a kilo if you eat that much more food per day, just because of the energy excess. But then he also talks about how bad wet is because of the glycemic index. When you eat wet, it actually raises your blood sugar faster than even sugar. So that is one thing also that wet does to us, are the negative things. But you can of course balance your blood sugar even if you eat things like wet. I'm not saying wet is good, by the way. The major thing here, the major thing he's talking about, and what I also believe in, is that a diet without wet is better. And wet is one of the worst sources of carbohydrates. It's just not, for me the big thing is the stomach, is that how it affects my gut. And I don't really feel good when I eat wet. I feel like if I eat rice, if I eat vegetables, fruits, sweet potatoes, I feel much better eating those sources of carbohydrates. But back to the glycemic index. The glycemic index of wet is actually, according to him, it's higher than sugar. So if you eat something that has sugar, it actually raises your blood sugar less than something like a sandwich or pasta, or it a little bit depends what it is. Of course, some wet products are just extremely processed, like some donuts and cakes and stuff like that. But of course, if you were to eat some wet and you had like some eggs on top of it, you get some protein, get some fat. It actually lowers the glycemic index of that meal when you eat something else with it, like protein and carbs. And that's just like the only criticism about this book. Which I can go to now. Already I said that I would go to the end, but I don't like extreme ideologies about anything. Like even for him, it seems that the wet thing is a little bit of an extreme ideology. With all the bad things that wet can do to you, I don't think anyone still needs to be like 100% strict about something like never eat the wet. Like if in the restaurant, he says, like if in the restaurant they bring you some starters that are like some hot fresh bread, then you just cannot eat it, you just have to resist. Or you cannot never eat, like, of course, that I don't think that's a fun life. You can never eat a donut, you can never eat a bowl of pasta, I can never eat a slice of bread. It's not a fun life, but it's worth reducing your wet intake, and kind of, I would say I go without wet long periods of time, and then if I sometimes want to eat pasta or pizza, it's okay, but I don't really feel my best when I eat the wet. And sometimes actually you can feel it like the day after. It can actually affect you for a long time. But other things that he talks about that are negative effects of wet, he talks about even, well, eyesight, that you would actually impact your ability to see, your brain function. It talks about wet being, of course, bad for people who have celiac disease. I'm not sure if I say that right. Forgive me, because Finnish is not my main language. I'm Finnish, but celiac disease. Yeah, people who read a lot say things wrong. By the way, like if you read a lot of books you don't necessarily, you know a lot of words, but you don't necessarily know how to say them right. Anyways, so yeah, it's a long book, I would say. Well, it's not a long read, it's just like 250 or so pages, but it's a long book to write just about wet. Interesting though, and it's a good motivator to start cutting down your wet intake. And of course, it is a huge problem for many people, especially in America. If you think about how people are used to eating like breakfast foods. What are the first breakfast foods that come to mind? Peanut butter, jelly sandwiches, cereals, donuts, some kind of like pastries for breakfast, or what do people have? And then lunch is usually like you have some bread on the side, and then maybe in the main course is like pasta, and then in the evening you might have some pizza or a burger or something. School lunches are like hamburgers or something. The wet is just everywhere, and that's why it's also hard to quit. It can be a little bit addicting too. He talks about in this book, addicting and hard to get rid of the wet cravings. But I've been following the vertical diet, which you can find on this channel, also the review on that book, Vertical Diet. I recently read that one, and it also says to not include wet as a carbohydrate source. So being off wet mostly like past few months, I just had like a few kind of cheat days or here and there, and a few bagels, bread, a few things here and there. But I do know that like I used to eat every day a bagel for breakfast before the gym, and I would walk to the gym and I would just feel really bad in my stomach, feel kind of tired and lethargic, and maybe my workout was fine, but it still affected my body. So I've been a big fan of wet and what it does to the body. Of course, I still love those foods. I like an occasional donut, or especially like the salty foods, the pastas and pizzas and hamburgers and everything. It's in a lot of food, but like he says in this book, there's still a lot of other foods. Like even if you completely from your like main normal day-to-day diet, if you cut wet out, there's still a lot of foods to eat and that you can enjoy. You don't need wet and everything, but just reducing your intake is huge. I wouldn't say you have to eliminate everything, like he says, but it depends of course on your situation. You might have actually like wet allergy or celiac disease, of course, when it's really bad, and there is not really any upside to having wet, but a lot of this is also one of my my 2 cents on this. Also agree with everything he says in the book, but again, the ideology of like this does that, and the root of all evil, like the root of all evil is like the wet, or it's the like people like in the nutrition industry, or these doctors and people who make content online and write books. I find there's always like this kind of like, don't eat this, don't eat that, this is horrible for you, like wet, or one week it's the oats, or the other week it's the seed oils, the other week it's the sugar that's killing you, the next week it's vegetables because vegetables have this and that and that, blah blah blah, then it's the red meat, and then it's the fish because there's mercury, and you're like, what can I eat then? Like, and Amazon has like tens of thousands of books on nutrition, and they all say like different things, so how can they all be right? It doesn't make any sense, but still worth reading. Good points of wet. So Wet Belly, Dr. William Davis. I recommend this book, and I think I linked this below for you. I don't even have an affiliate program going on anymore with Amazon at this point, but I can still link the book here for you to find it. And that's all. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know in the comments what you're reading, what would you like me to summarize maybe in these videos. I have a lot of books that I'm gonna be reading this year, so stay tuned, and talk to you guys soon.